fashioned against me, they shall never prosper. I am blessed of the Lord, his hand is mighty upon me, and no weapon fashioned against me, they shall never prosper. Praying child, godly children we are, never defeated, always winning, we're living in fear of God. Praying child, godly children we are, never defeated, always winning, we're living in fear of God. Like the holy land, round about your table, children are the heritage of God. I am seeking first the kingdom of God, cause I am a praying child. I got to pray just to I am a praying child. I am a praying child. I am black or white, I am a praying child. Just I have to pray. I am a praying child. Yes, I have to pray. I am a praying child. Jesus got my I am a praying child. I am blessed of the Lord, his hand is mighty upon me, and no weapon fashioned against me, they shall never prosper. I am blessed of the Lord, his hand is mighty upon me, and no weapon fashioned against me, they shall never prosper. Praying child, godly children we are, never defeated, always winning, we're living in fear of God. Praying child, godly children we are, never defeated, always
Hallelujah,
winning.
hallelujah, hallelujah. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. God bless you and welcome to Daily Prayer for our children, wherever it is that you're joining us from. As always, I like to welcome you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. I hope you've had a wonderful day. And if your day is just starting, then I hope you have a wonderful day in the mighty name of Jesus. So, as you've already had a glimpse, I am not alone by myself today. I have one of my sisters in the house, and we also have a topic that we began a couple of weeks back, and that is the topic that we would like to start with or continue. So if you were not with us when we started, then I would encourage you to please check for the playlist so that you can see the beginning of the mini series, Advocating for Your Child's Education. Advocating for your child's education. For some reason today, if I tell you that everything I'm doing is literally turning yellow, I can't tell you why. I just noticed that just about everything I'm wearing today or doing has to do with the color yellow. So this post was not planned and the color I'm wearing wasn't planned either, but we give God all the praise. So yellow it is today. I have Sister Folakemi waiting in the background by the grace of God, and we're going to be continuing where we stopped the last time, like I said. So if you didn't watch the first one, please go and check for the playlist on Praying Child Community. Look for Folakemi Adedeji Ikunyeminu. She has a playlist on our channel, and you could just listen to the first session and everything that she's done with us. It's there on the playlist. So today we're going to be going on the second leg of advocating for your child's education. So I don't think I have any other announcement. If I do, I guess we'll go along the way and we'll say it towards the end. But I want to give Sister Falakemi as much time as possible for us to be able to cover as much ground as possible. So I'm going to bring Sister Falakemi on board as soon as she's visible to me. So I'm just buying time, so to say. I hope all is well. Okay, all is well with her. So we're going to go this route. There we are. Hallelujah. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, sis. Good evening, everyone.
God bless you. Thank you very
Amen.
much, as
You too.
always. I do mean what I said. I want to give you as much time so maybe we can cover much ground. So I'm handing over the reign to you. The decision is in your hand, how you decide to navigate it.
Okay. Right. Welcome back, everybody. It's nice to be here again. We were talking about advocating for your child education. So where we started from was for the children who are mainstream, so to speak, children who don't have any additional needs, basic things that we need to, pay attention to and to remember even as our children go through their education. We're going to do a quick recap of what we had last time. We talked about the basic things about staying informed, effective communication. We talked about documentation. We talked about, why do we really need to be involved? Then we stopped at transitions and we spent quite a bit of time on transitions. And I talked about, moving from starting nursery, moving from nursery to foundation, from foundation to year one, and from year two to year three, from year six to secondary school, and from secondary school to A levels, and from A levels to university. Now, we've used the UK educational system as our yardstick, but transitions, you will agree with me, occur in every nation wherever we might live. Children are moving from one section of the education to the other. So helping them transition is important. Smooth transition, helping them understand, helping them plan ahead, helping them develop the skills that they need in their next level. And we were going to continue. We would start the slides now. So can we have the slides? So that's a brief overview of where we were. So we talked about transition. Okay, I've talked about that, given the summary. Every time your children are moving from one level of education to another, it's important. Even from A levels to university, it's a massive jump. For most of our children, it's the first time they're leaving home. So don't just assume, oh, okay, it's the next class, they're going to the next class. There are quite a lot of children that are anxious. Some of them don't even know they're anxious about what's going to happen next, about, how prepared are they, all of those things. So let's be ready to support them. And this is the season where transition is taking place. Where I work, we're beginning to work with schools and parents to support the children with special needs to be ready for the next year, looking at their new class, looking at their new school, looking at, all the support. Some of them will require, visuals. We'll talk about that when we talk about special needs. So transitions are important, and we need to look at three main areas of the for the well-being of the child. So if we can have the next slide. So we need to look at their personal needs, need to look at their emotional needs, and we need to look at their academic needs. Now we tend to pay a lot of attention to their academic needs, but if their personal and emotional needs are not congruent, if they're not balanced, then the academic needs would not fall in place. I mean, I speak to people every day. They say, "Oh, this child, he's just disturbing everybody. He's just, he's just making noise. He's just running up and down, just throwing things." And I'm thinking, my question is, what is happening within that child? Okay, he's not meeting the academic targets. So basically, his personal and emotional needs are not being met. Is the work too difficult for him? Does it not is it that he doesn't have the language he needs to be able to explain to you or to ask the question? So these three areas are important as the children, as we begin to help the children think about transition. So first of all, let's move on to the next slide. Let's think about it. If the child is overwhelmed, and how many children know that word overwhelm? They don't. They just, some of them will refuse. Some of them will cry. Some of them will, have a tantrum. So different children will have different ways of reacting to what's happening around them. So if you need to check for signs of overwhelm could be, like I said, they're refusing their work, they're crying, they don't want to go to school, they're anxious. So think about what the new environment would be like. Is the new environment, is it a totally new environment? Then it means the child needs to be prepared for that new environment. If they're starting nursery for the first time, they need to have seen what the nursery is like, and they need to understand that mom is going to drop me and then come back and pick me up. Think about friendship groups. If they're moving schools, for instance, if you're moving house, or your children need to move schools, you as soon as they are, like, they're already established in one school, even if it's a nursery, they start saying, oh, my friend, I miss my friend. So all those sort of things, we might say, oh, you make new friends. Let's not assume. Some children don't make friends. Some children they're introverted. They don't make friends easily, and they can get attached to the friends that they've made. So these things we need to consider. It's part of their personal and emotional needs. Think about, what sort of pressures are they experiencing? Peer pressure. What's happening around them? What are their friendship groups like? So the whole child. It's important to think in the wholesome way when we are looking at the children, their transition, and their education. Think about, what career choices, what subject choices do they need? That's talking about secondary school. And then most of the peer pressure is late primary and secondary school. So career choices, their subject choices, is it been influenced by what their friends are doing? Is it being influenced by the fact that they don't want to exert themselves, so they'll choose the easy way out? So we need to consider all of those things. We need to also about thinking about the whole child now. How do they balance their study and social time, especially as they grow older in the secondary schools? These are some of the things we need to think about, whether we're talking about transition, or we're talking about getting involved, or we're talking about seeking the necessary support, or we're talking about staying informed. These are the things we need to pay attention to, okay, for the child to have wholesome education. So balancing their study time and their social time. Some parents will completely cancel out social time. I'm not an advocate of that. Children, even you as an adult, you need social time. It's just finding the balance. Even if the child is taking exams, how are they decompressing? How are they relieving? How are they getting rid of the stress? It can't just be study, 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 study because it's exam time. There should be some time where they can have a break. So it's the whole child, the whole child that makes up education. Let's move on to the next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so study plans. Of course, as they grow older, we need to think about study plans. We need to think about homework strategy. What works for your first child might not work for your second child. So, like I always say, it's being mindful of who the child is and being present to support them appropriately. Time to connect. Time to connect with your children. So it's not all about, oh, go and carry your book. Have you done your homework? Having conversations about, what's going on. having conversations about, oh, what happened in school today, what sort of fashion are you talking about for girls when they get to those sort of ages. So connecting with the children, talking about, when we connect with them, they will be able to come back and tell us, oh, so things that have happened in class, how, those who are being rude, a teacher who's doing whatever. If we don't connect with them, things will happen that we will miss out on. So it's important that, we connect with them, and, we can talk about these things. Nutrition, nutrition, we can't harp it enough. Please don't let the children survive on noodles or bread. Left to them, to their own devices. That's what they will do. But as they grow older, let there be some organization. Make sure they're getting a balanced diet. Okay, so family dinners could help in that instance, because that's pre-planned. Physical activity, make sure they're engaged, in physical activity. Some children have a lot of energy. My son, he still has a lot of energy. He's 23 and he still plays football, whereas my daughter would is happy to, just be at home. So make sure they have physical activity to strengthen, their system. Extracurricular activity, I can't preach that enough. It's not, I like I said, it's not just about books. Are they doing dance classes? Are they playing football? Are they learning to play the piano? Are they doing gymnastics? Anything, anything that, helps them to build their social skills and their awareness of the world. And while we're talking about extracurricular activities, sometimes it could be things that you're doing at home. I learned something after my children had kind of grown up. But I thought, oh, well, I kind of did it in some ways, but not in a structured way. Some people have a curriculum that they've written for their children of things they want them to learn. Okay, some people have written a curriculum about how they want their children to learn, what do they, emotional intelligence skills. They've written a curriculum, and they found that they're looking for videos, and they're looking for books and texts, and they're teaching their children leadership skills. Some people are teaching their children, money handling skills, management skills, all those sort of things, interview skills. So you can write a curriculum of things that, you feel that, school is not teaching, and find a way for your child to learn them. So that all of that falls under extracurricular, but I'd say that's your own home, your contribution to their formal education. And you would agree with me that in today's world, it's the soft skills that are selling, the interpersonal skills. And it's not school that will teach them those things. It's the sort of other things that you expose them to that will help them pick up those skills. So, and rest and sleep, obviously. And if you have young children, please make sure they go to bed early. When I talk to people at 9 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and the primary school children are still speaking in the background, I'm a bit like, that child will not be focused in class the next day. Okay, so children need to go to bed on time. If you have teenagers, please make sure they get enough sleep. If you have established it, no screens in bedrooms is a good idea, so that they can get as much sleep as they need. Family time, important to catch up on, how everybody's doing. Screen time, I've talked about that. Social time, let's make sure that, there's a balance. The balance is what's important. It's not about cutting out things, because at the end of the day, if we've cut it out and the time is not used appropriately, then it's not worth the trouble. So that's it about, you know those sort of areas you need to look at, of when as your children are growing up, so that you can support them properly. So let's move on to the next slide. Let's make sure that, there's active learning. I always say, it's not all about sitting down and studying. It's about, engaging all the senses so that they can be interested in their learning. So flashcards, I've talked a lot about that in previous videos, mind maps, summaries, illustrating. Sometimes ask them to teach you what they've learned, even as they practice, so that they can get better. Teach a sibling, make a presentation for the family. If they're learning about South America, for instance, they can do a PowerPoint and share with everybody, oh, these are the cultures in South America, this is what the geography is like, those sort of things. So that's active learning. They can record an audio, they can make a poster, just different ways to get them engaged. Now, you will find that even the children who are reluctant to study, when you make it fun, make it fun and relaxing, they will be interested. Most children who are reluctant to study will be happy to do a presentation to the whole family, to say, oh, this is what I've learned, or to do an audio recording, or to make a rap out of the things they need to learn. So it's making it fun for them, and that means we are engaged. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so let's if they are in exam classes, if they're at that level, let them practice test papers, let them develop test taking skills. We can't assume that they know what to do. Teach them relaxation strategies, teach them deep breathing. Sometimes some children panic when they have to do things. Make sure that they know that, okay, once they're fretting or they're upset, this is what I need to stop. I need to i don't know what to do. I'd say to my children, stop and take a deep breath, or close your eyes and take a deep breath and pray. Okay, so those sort of things, so that they already have the skills, they already have those things in their arsenal, so that when they need to use it, it won't be a question of, oh, the complete breakdown, because they're frustrated or they're anxious. So teach them skills to help them cope with anxiety. Monitor their progress. Let there be regular check-in with the children. Listen to their concerns and act. So don't just listen to the teachers alone. Listen to your child. Monitor their progress and listen to them. If you've had a report, the conversation to be had at home, can you tell me more about this? Give me some more information about what's happened with this subject, or with your friendship groups, or anything at all. Always listen to them. And please recognize and celebrate effort over achievement. Not every child will be an A-star child, but every child that is making an effort needs to be celebrated, and that's important. Right, let's move on. Okay, so I put some resources that you might want to look at. The Khan Academy, it's a good one. Okay, it has free resources for different subjects, free experiences, things that you can look through with the children. Brain Pop is another good website. Okay, provides videos and interactive quizzes, on a range of topics. So looking up those websites will be useful. ABC Mouse. It's an early writing program. It's good for children between 2 and 8, so it's interactive, and it has step-by-step guides for young learners. Those are good websites. And next one, we're already on 9:29. Further resources. Epic is a library with lots of audiobooks that the children can read. The TED Ed, the education version of TEDx, lots of interesting topics. So those ones can serve as a discussion point, especially for your teenagers and older children. National Geographic I've always loved. Even before the digital age, I have a whole CD pack of all of some of their recordings and things like that. So everything and anything to engage the brain of the children and to help them learn, it's important. So that's it about that part of advocating for your children who are mainstream, who don't have any other challenges. Our main focus today, if we can do it in 30 minutes, will be the special needs. And I don't know, let's get started. Advocating for your child with special education needs and disabilities. That's what SEND means. Special education needs and disabilities. Now, if you have a child who has additional needs, it could be ADHD, ASD, whatever the diagnosis is. Let's look at what the definition of SEND is in the UK. SEND, that will be the next slide, is a learning difficulty. Okay. It requires special educational provision. It means that whatever everybody's doing, for that child to be able to access it, it requires some additional effort. So, and a child who has SEND is one who has a significantly greater difficulty in learning than the majority of the children of their age. So they have a significant difficulty in accessing their learning. So the need hinders them from using a general approach to learning. So it means that there has to be some modifications made to their learning, and compared to the children or other students of their age, they just need that additional support. Now that's the definition that we get from the SEND Code of Practice. This is for the UK. Okay, a child that needs a little bit more than what every other individual in their school or setting needs. Now let's move on. So now what this means is that they're getting a provision additional to and different from what is made generally for all the children in class. So if there's a task and everybody's doing that task, their own task will have an additional sort of support that's slightly different to what everybody else is doing, but it doesn't mean no access to what others are doing. It means we're going to have to look at the provision and look at what the task or whatever it is the children are doing, and making sure that these other children are not disadvantaged. They have an opportunity to access that learning. Now in the UK, it's a big deal, and I know that in America they have, and in North America they have, or even in Europe they have their own way of supporting children with needs. Now, in talking about special needs, it can run from nursery through primary school all the way to post 16. And in the UK, if you've got certain needs in the university, there'll be the adjustments will be made to support the learning. So any kind of educational provision, if the child has a need, it's got to be additional to and different from what everybody else is getting. But that doesn't put the child with a need at a disadvantage. So very quickly, we'll look at the 4 areas of need, which is our next slide. So it will include one or more of the following. So there could be what we call cognition and learning difficulties, which are things like specific learning difficulties, dyslexia, dyspraxia, all of those things that hinder the educational access for the child. So we've talked moderate learning difficulties. There's profound learning difficulties as well for children who have quite a high level of need. Now, there's social, emotional, and mental health difficulties as well. So we have depression, ADHD, we have eating disorders, we have anxiety disorders, we have, mental health issues, social disorders as well. So social, emotional, and mental health needs. This is where we see a lot of acting out, a lot of behaviors because of dysregulation. Then we have the communication and interaction needs. Children who have challenges in communicating their needs. Now you will find that there's sometimes a mix of needs. So children will come and children will have different. We'll pick one or two from each area, and then it will still like a really complex need, but they're actually not really difficult for schools and teachers who are patient enough. Communication and interaction needs. We have speech and language difficulties. We have autistic spectrum condition, not disorders anymore, social communication difficulties. Then we have the sensory or physical needs. So it could be, things like visual impairment, hearing impairment, it could be a physical disability. So all of those things come under one group. So those are the four main areas that we look at in the UK. Now, there's a wide range. If we go on to the next slide, there's a lot of information available as well. So, but it's best to get guidance from qualified professionals if you feel your child has a need. We have the coordinators for special needs in the UK, UK schools are called SENCOs. They would they can conduct screenings to give indicators of needs. Some needs will have to go to professionals like educational psychologists, or to get a diagnosis you might have to go to it for certain things like ADHD and ASC. You might have to go to the doctors or to mental health or psychiatrists, but all of those things are available and accessible for most people in the developed nations, and as things are developing in other nations as well. Nigeria, and I can see that people are making the effort. All these professionals are now available, even if you have to pay for them. Okay. Now let's look at the next slide. What are the barriers that children that have special needs that they could experience at school? You as a parent might feel, oh, something's not quite right, and school might be dismissive and say, oh, there's no issue, or school might say, oh, we're monitoring it, we're keeping an eye on it, or school might say, oh, we don't have the resources to support them, or they might say, oh, your children don't qualify for an assessment because we don't think that need is high enough, or they would say, oh, you need to go to the doctor for a diagnosis, or your child is doing well academically. Now, some children are doing well academically, but they don't have the social skills. So do they have some social communication difficulties? Once you feel that there's something is off, you are the advocate. You need to start, doing something about it. So you may experience barriers, especially if your child is bright or school. And some children are really good at keeping things together at school. They'll be all right at school. Then they'll come home. I speak to lots of parents like that. School will say, oh, we don't see anything wrong. He's always all right at school. But the child goes home, and every time they're home, they have a meltdown because they're tired, they're overwhelmed. And we're finding more and more girls are like this. And what's coming out is a lot of them are on the autistic spectrum. So they'll be fine at school, but at home, it'll be a totally different child. and the parents will be struggling. So that's why we're talking about advocating. You just need to be aware and take the necessary actions. Right. So in the UK, we have what we call the SEND Code of Practice. That's our next slide. Special Education Needs Code of Practice. And that sets out, and I'm sure the same applies in all other nations, where the government has set out a guide, what the local authority, what health bodies and schools and colleges are to provide for children with special needs. So it sets out the process for identifying difficulties, and in the UK, the government is hot on early intervention. So from as early as nursery, the government is providing the support so that the children can get the support at the beginning, and they won't need as much support as they grow. Now, if you live in a nation where this is not available, then you need to make sure that you are looking for the right support for the children. So, and special needs provision is important because it helps to remove the barriers to learning from early on. Early intervention, early identification and intervention goes a long way. I've had children that maybe I taught them in year one, or maybe when I was coordinating special needs, who were like, oh my god, this child cannot sit still, this child is not doing this, not doing that. And then 4 years down the line, after we've put in all the support, you see them sitting and reading a book. I have taught children who would wail, who they would cry when it came to reading or writing, and they would say, "Oh, I can't do it." And then 5 years down the line, because we had persevered at the beginning and encouraged them and put in the support, you just walk past their classroom and they're sitting there nicely reading or writing. So it's making sure that if you feel something is off, please find the help your child needs. It doesn't matter what part of the world you live in. Ask questions, do research. Thank God for the internet. You can easily sit on Google now and look for information for where to get help. And if you're lucky, there's help is available. Please make use of it. Next slide, please. Next slide. So the principles of the code of practice. The SEND code of practice in the UK believes that we must seek the views and wishes and feelings of the children and young person and their parents. So even when the need is identified, it's not just that one person makes the decisions for you. In the UK, if there's a need that is greater than what the school can provide with the budget provided by the government, then we move the children on to what we call the education healthcare plan. Now that means that they've moved from what we call the graduated approach, the main school approach, to having some additional program of support written for them. Now, in writing the educational healthcare plan, the views of the parents and the child is important. They can't just write a piece and give it to you. Your contribution is important. We would ask about information from the healthcare professionals, speech therapists, pediatricians, and then we'll do educational psychologists and occupational if occupational therapy is involved. They will pull information from all the professionals to write a document of support, and that document of support, the EHC plan, is reviewed every year, and it moves with the child as they move through school. It's reviewed, the targets are redone, they're reviewed so that they can see what progress the child is making. So, and in writing the plan, the views of the parents is important in putting in the necessary support. For you to be able to participate in this, and to make a positive impact, you need to have the necessary information. Information. If you don't know, ask. Just even on Facebook, there are groups that are advocating, supporting parents of children with special needs. So please don't sit and do nothing. Make sure that you have the information that you need. So the code of practice also, it wants us to make sure that the children and young people are able to achieve the best possible in education and other outcomes in preparing them for adulthood. So when the children get an EHCP, they are supported from 0 to 25 years if they are in mainstream education. So that's from nursery through university. There's some support for them if they have additional needs and they have an education healthcare plan. So let's backtrack a bit. That's the next slide. Do you think your child has special education needs and disability? My first question will be, is he or she making expected progress? Is he or she making expected progress? Now, we find that sometimes when it's a first child and there's no other children to compare with, sometimes parents would not be aware. What I would say is sometimes schools will bring it to your attention that we think there might be a need here. Don't dismiss it. Seek ask for evidence, and then seek help and see, what else is this true, is it not true? Like, I know that for a fact that many nurseries in the UK are really good at identifying a child who is not picking up the correct language skills. And once a nursery says, what, we think you should, take this child to a speech therapy drop-in, please do it. Please do it, because it's best for them to get the support they need early on. Once some of them will get the speech therapy for a year, a couple of years, and they're fine. But if we refuse, or we deny, and we are in denial, and we don't provide that support, it's going to tell on the child. We find that a lot of the children in secondary schools who are acting out, and who are being really vile and violent, a lot of them have communication difficulties. They don't have the words to tell you how they're feeling or what they're thinking. So the next point of call is just to cause chaos. So have a think. If school is saying, we think there might be something going on, look for an independent person, or look for more information, read up. And if there's a need, let's begin to support it from the beginning. Okay, next slide. So some needs are not evident. So like I said earlier, when the child is young, it might not be evident. An experienced person might be able to say, I don't know what's going on there. So make sure that we're listening and we're watching. Schools may tell you there's no issue. If you think there's an issue, you are the parent, follow it up and see that it is, it's sorted. No two children are the same, but when there's a need, it's usually obvious. Okay. Make sure that you are looking for what is expected progress for their age. Okay. And use that as your guide. Now, I'm not saying you're asking for, who is at the top of the class, but what is the average child at this age doing? How far behind is my child? By the time a child is 2 years behind, there is a need. 3 years behind, there is a huge need. So you would need, the evidences that you have of what's going on with your child to be able to get a picture and get the support right. And whenever there's a need, if there's been an identified need, you are the expert. The professionals will give you their input. If you don't agree, say I don't agree. This is what I think. So the fact that the professionals there does not mean that you can't that your voice should not be heard, or you don't agree. If we don't agree with something, just say it. Especially when they are writing an education healthcare plan for the child. If there's a point you disagree with, let's just ensure that you make your point, your point, your opinion known. Let's move on to the next slide. I'm not sure we can finish today. So, what should the school be doing? So, if there's a gap in attainment growing between your child and their peers, like I said, if they're 2 years behind, 3 years behind, what's going on? Is the child finding it difficult to focus? Are they finding it difficult to listen in the classroom? Are they finding school overwhelming and they say, no, I don't want to go? Are they complaining that school is too noisy? Is there delayed speech? Is there delayed communication? We always ask when we talk to parents, did they meet their milestones? Did they talk at the right, as you know, at a good time? Did they crawl? Did they walk at the right time? All of those things are important. Okay, if they're struggling to communicate their needs, if a child keeps saying and keeps using the wrong word for an object, and it makes if they get frustrated when they're trying to talk to you, you need to pay attention to those things. There might be an underlying need. Are they finding it difficult to process and understand information? No, it's much more difficult than other children of their age. Remember, we're saying this in comparison to other children who are their age. These are pointers for you to start thinking what could be going on. Next slide, please. So if you are seeing behavioral difficulties, if the child is finding it difficult to focus in class, if they're having emotional meltdowns, if little things are causing lots of tears, if writing has become a major issue, if there's high levels of anxiety, if the child is always withdrawn or always quiet, difficulties in attending school, part-time timetables, and if the existing support is not successful, if the child is having health issues, some children are having constant tummy aches. They're saying my tummy hurts, my head hurts. What's going on is what we should be asking, and paying attention to the needs of the child. These are some of the pointers to whether or not your child is going to need further support more than the current, what's being provided at school. I'm not sure if we should continue. I think we have a bit more where I talk about the EHCP. Do you want us to go on, ma'am? Okay, right. So if your child in the UK is going to need an EHCP, you need information. It's always good to have documentations about the needs and the progress of your child. So like I said, when we talk to parents, we ask about what was pregnancy like, because sometimes when there's been a traumatic birth, it affects the child. Okay, what was pregnancy like? Was there any issues with birth, postnatal concerns? Was he sleeping as a baby? Was he a colicky baby? All of those things, and then early milestones, any health issues. In Milton Keynes, where I live, we have what we call the SEND support plan, and the SEND support plan details a good history for the child, so that anybody that picks that up will be able to understand these are the needs. And it's that SEND support plan that we actually transfer into the education healthcare plan. I'll talk about that in a bit. So health issues, sometimes people put in their um, vaccination records. They put in, significant events in the life of a family, if there's been a bereavement, all of those things. Sometimes we take those things for granted. But children are they know when things are going wrong. They know when things are not right. And sometimes you can trace back issues that the children is experiencing to major things that have happened in the home, the demise of a grandparent or the loss of a sibling, all of those things. Also, records that you need to keep you know close to you. School reports. Did the child suddenly dip in their learning, or was the child talking before and then stop talking? Keep your information, records of meetings you've had with schools, record of minutes, those sort of things. Therapy provisions. Has the child had speech therapy? Has the occupational therapy team been involved? Whichever team, professional is involved, please keep their notes, keep their reports, keep everything, because you're going to need them. Keep your diary of your child. Was it a fussy eater as a baby? Does it forget instructions? Does it struggle with sleeping? Are there seasons when they're not sleeping well? Are they on a Sunday? Some children are really restless and really worried. Are they anxious? You need those sort of information. You need to keep that close to you, because you might need it when it comes to applying and providing information for an education healthcare plan. I think, are you still there, sis? Should we do the next slide?
Yeah. I think it's a good idea. I just have a quick question. I'm not going to take your time. I've made a few notes for when we're going to have our Q&A.
Yeah.
This last point that you're saying, especially in the UK, I don't know for anybody else, I don't know whether they still do it. It's such a long time ago. All my children are adults now. We used to have something called the Red Book.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. So all this information that you keep saying, keep, wouldn't the Red Book have some of this information in it already?
It would.
Because obviously I've never had a child with any learning difficulties, so I wouldn't know. So would that be a separate, or would it be part of the Red Book as well? Because I think they only use the Red Book until they're 5. Then after 5, that information I don't know.
I don't know what happens now. I didn't have my children here, so I didn't
Okay.
have a red book.
Okay.
So if you don't have a red book, like, because I'm someone who keeps documents, I brought in all the
Everything.
vaccination. I still have them. I still have them. So it just depends. I don't know what they use now. I know you have health visitors. If you have a red book, definitely you'll have a bit of that information. But I know that things have slipped in the system if you're not keeping at a focus. If you're not paying attention to those things, it's just like your car. What do you call it? The book where they write the service records.
Yes.
You would
yes,
just have
in
to
the car.
remind.
It's
Yeah.
in the glove compartment.
Yes, in the glove compartment. If some dealers, you have to remind, some garages, you'd have to ensure that it's
they
done.
do it. Yes.
So
Yes.
it's making sure those things are there and handy. You just don't know when you would need them. I mean, I needed my daughter's vaccination card in her second year in uni, because they said, "Oh, we have to check that you've got the diphtheria or something." And I said, "Oh, it's on your card." And then they looked and they said, "Oh, one thing is missing," and said, "Go and get it," because she's studying pharmacy. So
Okay.
they had to have their
Yeah.
whatever, all of their vaccinations complete. So, that sort of thing. So, you
Yeah.
just need to have them and keep them. You don't know when you need them.
Need them. Okay, so that would just be to if anybody is an expert in Canada, America, and you can help us in this area because we're only talking based on what we know in the UK. So if you have that information, that resources, and you can help us, please feel free, contact us, let us know because that will be useful to help direct them because our health system is very much different from
It
theirs.
is. It is.
Yes, theirs is very much private and insurance and all those kind of things, whereas ours is kind of centralized and uniform because you can almost go one place. I don't know what it is. I wanted to book the other day. The lady, I don't know whether she couldn't spell my name, she didn't hear me or whatever. She just said, "Give me your NHS number." And immediately I gave it to her. She was like, okay, da, 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 da.
Yeah.
So you see the kind of thing that I'm talking about. So that might not be what you've got where you are, but I'm definitely an advocate, like you said, Sister Falakemi, of keeping documents and information. So whether you have the red book or you don't have the red book, you know something. Even with the red book, I want to say this, even if you're in United Kingdom, I don't know what they call that thing when they test your chest. Is electrical something. They put all these electrical wires on your heart, your chest, all those things to get all those. There was a time one of my child was having breathing difficulties and chest pain, and we got an appointment at the hospital and we went to do those tests to make sure that whatever is supposed to be happening is happening. Do you know it's not in his record? It's not in his record. Meanwhile, we had it because we now had to see a specialist or a consultant for an ongoing issue. And when we saw that one was now asking us questions. Did you do this? Have you done that? Da, 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 da. And we said, yes, we did this. We came to this hospital at this time. And she looked through it again and she looked through it again. She said, there's nothing in your record saying that it was done.
Must have been
So-
recorded wrongly.
Okay. So you see, but because like you said, any NHS letter, appointment letter, do you get what? Everything is stored. I've got it stored. They don't get thrown away. I know, it's paper consuming, it's space consuming, but I just don't throw them away because, like you said, look at your daughter now. How many years down the line, university second year, now asking for it. If you look at the space that the paper take and paper keeping, record keeping, what it takes to keep, you just say, no, I don't need this, get rid of it, and all those kind of things. So don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
One of the things I would advise you to do, and I do that a lot, I take a picture.
Yeah.
I take a picture. So whatever it is, I take a picture. So even if I can't find the document, I know it's going to be on the phone somewhere. So when you look at your phone, especially if you've got extra storage for your phone and you're not upgrading your phone all the time and losing stuff and that kind of thing, or if you're backing up, I take picture. I know WhatsApp backup every day. So at least if I've taken a picture on WhatsApp, on the family WhatsApp, everybody's got it. Even if I'm not available, somebody else in the family
Would have it.
can look
Yeah.
in the WhatsApp group, in our media. You just need to go to media, look for images. You go for images, especially if you have an idea of the time of the year. If it was like in 2019, it was around Christmas time. Okay, you can go specifically to that place in your device and you can look for it and you can bring it up. So record keeping for our children, I think that's one of the key things that we're going to take away from here. And to be honest, Sister Falakemi, I don't think it's only if we've got children with learning difficulties or challenges. I think until our children become adult and start doing stuff for themselves, I think everything should be kept. That's me personally. Everything is kept because you just never know what might be needed, what
No.
might be asked. So record keeping, it's a good thing. Like I said, phone makes it easy. Even when I get an appointment, take a picture of it, boom. So even if it's a receipt, I send something to somebody in the post office, I take a picture, boom, that's it. If I lose the receipt, it's on my phone. So that might be something worth, if there's anything that your phone is useful for, take a picture. It's going to be in there. It's stored in the memory. Even if the phone is damaged, you get a new phone, you log in, you get all your details back. Yeah, your backup, exactly. So you never lose them. And it's always mobile with you as well, just in case any time that you do need it. So I've got lots of questions. It looks like we didn't finish, like you said.
No, we didn't finish.
We've only reached 28 out of 44. So it looks like this where we'll be picking it up next week?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you. I am so grateful for your time, Ma. Very, very grateful. And some of the people joining us from America and Canada as well, they're all saying thank you and saying
Thank you,
hello.
everyone.
So thank you.
Thank
So I'm going to
you.
let you go, and we will
Yes.
look forward to seeing you the same time next week by the
Yes.
grace of God. Thank
Okay.
you, sis.
God bless.
Enjoy the rest of your evening, Ma.
Thank you. And
Take
you too.
care. Bye. Everybody, as always, that was Sister Fola Kemi. We are so grateful for her knowledge and expertise. Again, I say this all the time. You can connect with Sister Fola Kemi on Facebook, on Instagram. 2 pages on Instagram, 2 pages on Facebook. One is personal, one is professional. So you can connect with her any one of those places. And as you can see, we've been thoroughly equipped again with a lot of information for our children, whether they have challenges or they don't have challenges. We've got all this information. And please, even if our children are grown and they are no longer in education or in need of some of these things that Sister Fola Kemi is bringing to our table, I'm still advocating that you might know somebody, or there are somebody that needs this and they don't know that they can have access to all these kind of things. So please let them know, make this information available to them. That's my request to everybody, that you don't need it, but you're here. You can pass that tool on. Like I said, if you go to the playlist on Praying Child Community, there's a playlist for Sister Fola Kemi. Well, there's no sister there. I just put Fola Kemi Adedeji Ikunyeminu. If you go there, everything she's been teaching us from the beginning, it's there, and it's very resourceful, and it's information that are timeless, and we can go back to them again and again. So I guess at this junction, this is where I say a massive thank you to everybody, as always. And there's only one thing left for me to do, and that is obviously to hand you over to the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Have a wonderful day, morning or night, wherever you are. Take care, everybody. God bless you all, and see you soon. Bye.
I am blessed of the Lord, his hand is mighty upon me, and no weapon fashioned against me, they shall never prosper. I am blessed of the Lord, his hand is mighty upon me, and no weapon fashioned against me, they shall never prosper. Praying child, godly children we are, never defeated, always winning, believing in fear of God. Praying child, godly children we are, never defeated, always winning, believing in fear of God. Like the holy plan, round about your table, children are the heritage of God. I am seeking first the kingdom of God, cause I am a praying child. I gotta pray just to I am a praying child. angels. I